Rain fell without pause. It was not like the rain on Earth that came and went with seasons. Here the drops fell forever, steady and endless, covering the land with rivers that never stopped flowing. The explorers stepped out of their landing craft and looked up at the gray sky. The water touched their faces, their hands, their clothes, and it never ceased. Mira, the leader of the group, stood tall at the edge of the camp they had built. She had a calm face and eyes that studied everything carefully. She watched the waterfalls in the distance. They poured from cliffs like silver curtains, glowing faintly under the dim light of the clouds. The sound of water filled the air so strongly that silence had no place in this land. Beside her stood Kai. He was quiet, his eyes sharp and thoughtful. He listened to the waterfalls as if they were speaking to him. "It feels alive," he said softly. Mira only nodded. She too felt that the rain was more than simple weather. The third member, Lena, adjusted her pack and brushed water from her hair. She was the one who carried old books and studied lost languages. She smiled faintly, trying to lighten the heavy air. "If legends are true, the tomb is here. And if the tomb is here, then so is the secret of eternal rain." The group had traveled across stars to reach this place. Old stories told of a tomb hidden beneath the waterfalls, a place where gold was buried. Yet Mira did not believe it was simple treasure. She believed the legends spoke of something greater, something left behind by a civilization long gone. They built their camp on a flat rock platform near the river. The tents were small, covered in clear sheets to keep the endless rain away. The fire they tried to light only smoked, the damp air refusing to give it strength. Instead, they used glowing stones they had found near the cliffs. The stones shone with a soft blue light, enough to guide them through the wet darkness. As night came, the world did not change much. There was no true night here. The sky remained covered by clouds, glowing faintly with silver light. The sound of the waterfalls grew even stronger in the cooler air. Mira sat by the glowing stones and thought of the task ahead. Somewhere behind the walls of water was the tomb, and within it was the truth of the eternal rain. Kai came and sat near her. He pointed toward the largest waterfall far in the distance. It looked wider than a city tower and brighter than the others. "That one," he said. "It hides something. The water falls in rhythm, not by chance." "I have been watching," Mira raised her eyes. Indeed, the waterfall did not fall in simple chaos. The water formed shapes, repeating patterns, almost like symbols. She felt a small thrill. "We will study it more closely tomorrow," she said. Lena joined them with her notes. She had been sketching the glowing stones and the markings she thought she saw near the river. "There is writing here," she said, showing her notebook. "Not words we know, but symbols. They repeat too. I think the rain itself is a language." The three sat together, listening to the endless sound. The thought was strange but exciting. Could rain carry meaning? Could water itself speak of the past? Mira touched one of the glowing stones. "This place is not natural," she whispered. "The rain has a purpose. The tomb is waiting for us to understand." Later, as they tried to rest in their tents, Mira woke suddenly. She thought she had heard something beyond the roar of water. She stepped outside, the rain falling soft on her face. She stood still, listening. Yes, it was there, faint but real. A sound carried by the rain, a tone almost like music. She looked toward the distant waterfalls and felt her heart quicken. The music was not loud, but it was steady, hidden inside the falling water. It was as if the rain itself was singing. The next morning the group gathered again. Mira told them what she had heard. Kai's eyes lit with quiet excitement. "I thought I heard it too," he said. It was like strings of sound, rising and falling with the drops. Lena pressed her hand to her chest. "Then it must be true. The tomb is not only behind the waterfalls, it is inside the rain itself." They packed their gear and prepared to move toward the great waterfall. Their hearts were full of wonder but also of caution. They knew the journey would not be easy. The cliffs were high, the water strong, and the path uncertain. Yet none of them thought of turning back. As they set out, the rain continued to fall, endless and patient. It had fallen for ages before their arrival, and it would fall for ages more. But now, for the first time, the rain carried a secret, and the secret waited for those who dared to listen. The explorers moved carefully along the riverbank. The rain fell steady as always, covering their clothes and packs with silver drops. Mira led the way with calm steps, her eyes fixed on the giant waterfall in the distance. It shone like a curtain of liquid light, wider and taller than any building they had ever seen. Kai followed close behind. He was quiet, but his mind was busy. He had been watching the waterfalls since their arrival, and he was certain they were not natural. Water did not fall in such perfect rhythm by chance. He held a small lens in his hand, checking the flow of drops with care. Lena walked a little behind them, holding her notebook close to her chest. She had drawn many symbols during the night. Each time she looked at the falling water, she thought she saw hidden shapes forming and fading. She was eager to test her ideas against the great waterfall. The path was not easy. The rocks were smooth from endless water, and rivers rushed across the ground. At times they had to hold ropes to cross. Mira kept her voice steady, guiding the others and checking their safety. They trusted her completely, and that trust gave them courage. By midday, they reached a high ridge. From there they could see the largest waterfall in full. The sight was breathtaking. The water poured from the cliff like a shining wall, splitting into streams and mist. Rainbows curved across the mist, glowing faintly in the cloudy sky. The roar of water shook the air so strongly that their voices were almost lost. Mira raised her hand, signaling silence. They all stood still, watching. Kai narrowed his eyes and spoke slowly, his voice low but firm. Look at the fall. Watch how the streams break. There are shapes. Not random. They return again and again. Lena leaned forward, eyes wide. She saw it too. In the endless flow, the drops formed patterns. Circles appeared for a heartbeat, then lines, then spirals. The shapes vanished quickly but returned after the same count of time. It was as if the water was repeating a message. It is a code, Lena whispered. The rain itself is writing, Mira nodded. Her heart beat faster. She had felt it since the first night, but now it was clear. The rain was alive with meaning. The tomb was not just hidden behind the waterfall. The tomb was speaking through the water itself. They stayed on the ridge for hours, studying the flow. Kai counted the time between the shapes, marking them on a small slate. Lena copied each form in her notebook, filling page after page with circles, lines, and waves. Mira watched the great fall, her mind trying to see the path hidden within. As the light of the day began to fade, Kai lowered his slate. His eyes were bright, though his face was calm. The shapes repeat in groups, he said, and each group points in one direction. All groups point to the same place, behind the center of the waterfall. Lena's hands shook slightly as she closed her notebook. The tomb is there. The gold, the secret of eternal rain, it is all behind that curtain of water. Mira placed a hand on each of their shoulders. Her voice was steady, though she too felt the weight of the moment. Then tomorrow we climb. We will find the path through the water. That night they returned to their camp. The rain fell without rest, but their hearts were alive with energy. They sat together under the glow of the stones, speaking softly. Kai described how the water formed signals, not unlike the stars in the sky when they create constellations. Lena compared the symbols to marks found in her old books, though none matched exactly. Mira listened, thinking of the choice that waited for them. If the tomb was real, what would they find inside? Would it be treasure or something far greater? As they prepared to sleep, the strange music returned. It came softly, hidden in the endless fall of rain. Mira sat up and listened, her face calm but thoughtful. The tones matched the patterns Kai had counted. The rain was not only writing with shapes, it was also singing with sound. She told the others, and they listened too. The tones rose and fell like strings of gentle music, repeating again and again. Lena's eyes grew wide with wonder. It is the same message, she whispered. Written in water, sung in rain. The tomb is calling us. The explorers lay awake for a long time, hearing the secret song of the waterfalls. They knew the next day would test them. The climb would be hard, the water heavy, the path unknown. But none of them thought of turning back. For now the rain washed over their tents like a never-ending lullaby. It had fallen for ages without change, but tonight it felt different. Tonight the rain carried a promise. Somewhere behind the silver curtain, the tomb of eternal rain waited. The morning came with the same endless rain. The explorers rose from their tents and prepared for the climb. Mira checked the ropes and hooks, her movements calm and steady. She looked at Kai and Lena with a small nod. Today we step through the veil, she said. The great waterfall roared in the distance, louder than any storm they had known. The path to reach it was steep, covered in mist and slippery stone. Yet their steps were firm. They carried only what they needed: ropes, lanterns, and Lena's notebook. The glowing stones from the camp were tied to their belts, giving them light even under the dark sky. As they drew closer, the sound of the waterfall grew like thunder that never ended. Mist covered their faces, soaking their hair and clothes until it was hard to tell rain from spray. Still, they pressed on. Mira led, Kai followed with ropes coiled across his back, and Lena came last, her eyes wide with wonder and a little fear. At the base of the cliff, they stopped to rest. Before them, the water poured like a wall of silver fire, crashing into a deep pool below. The air shook with the power of the fall, and their voices could not rise above it. Mira pointed upward. The symbols they had studied seemed to gather near the middle of the waterfall. That was where the path waited. The climb began. Mira went first, pressing her hands and feet against the wet stone, fixing hooks where she could. Kai followed, tying the ropes with skill, his face calm though the water hit him with endless force. Lena climbed last, holding tight, trusting the ropes and her friends more than her own strength. Step by step they rose higher. The spray blinded them at times, and the roar filled their ears until nothing else could be heard. Yet slowly they reached the point where the water fell in strange rhythm. Here the streams broke into shapes just as Kai had counted. The patterns were clearer up close, circles and lines flowing for a breath before vanishing again. Mira pressed a hand against the rock behind the water. For a moment she felt only cold stone, but then her fingers touched something smooth and curved. She called to the others, and together they cleared the spray with their hands. There it was. Hidden behind the curtain of water stood a doorway carved into the cliff. Its edges glowed faintly, covered in runes that pulsed with soft light. The doorway was tall, higher than any of them, and shaped like an arch. The water struck it endlessly, yet the carvings were untouched, as if they had been waiting for ages. Lena's eyes shone as she leaned closer. She traced the runes with care. The symbols were not like any language she fully knew, yet parts of them felt familiar, like echoes from old writings she had studied in her books. She whispered as she worked, "This is not a warning. It is an invitation. It speaks of the gift of endurance waiting for those who come after." Kai stood back, his gaze steady on the glowing lines. "Endurance," he repeated. "The rain that never stops. The patience of time itself. Perhaps the tomb is not only a place of rest, but a lesson." Mira placed her hand firmly on the center of the arch. The runes glowed brighter, the light spreading like fire through the carvings. Slowly, with a deep rumble, the doorway began to open. A seam split down the middle, and warm air poured out, carrying a faint scent like flowers after rain. The explorers stepped back, their hearts racing. The roar of the waterfall was still around them, but inside the doorway it was quiet, almost peaceful. The light from within glowed golden, and the sound of dripping water echoed softly. Mira looked at her companions. "This is the path," she said. "The tomb of eternal rain is not only legend, it is real." Together they stepped through the doorway. Behind them the waterfall roared as before, hiding the entrance from the world. Inside they found themselves in a vast passage carved from stone. Crystals glowed along the walls, casting a warm and gentle light. Water ran in thin streams across the floor, clear and pure. Lena touched one of the crystals and gasped. It was warm, almost alive, and pulsed with a faint rhythm like a heartbeat. She quickly began writing in her notebook. Kai studied the walls. Strange carvings stretched along them, showing tall beings with long arms shaping clouds and guiding rivers. The figures seemed peaceful, their faces calm, their hands raised toward the sky. He spoke softly. "These are the ones who built this place. They were not only makers of stone, they were keepers of water." The explorers walked slowly, their footsteps echoing in the great passage. The deeper they went, the more the roar of the waterfall faded until only the sound of dripping water remained. The air was warm and dry, so unlike the endless rain outside. At last they reached a chamber where the walls were lined with golden patterns that reflected the crystal light like flowing rivers of sunlight. Pools of water lay across the floor, each one calm and clear. The air carried a faint song, the same gentle tones Mira had heard in the rain. The three stood together in silence, filled with awe. The tomb was not a place of death, but a place of beauty and meaning. It had waited for ages, hidden behind the veil of water, until they were ready to find it. Mira looked at Kai and Lena. Her voice was low but steady. "We have crossed the veil. Now the true discovery begins." The chamber before them glowed with gentle light. Golden patterns covered the walls. stretching from floor to ceiling like rivers frozen in time. The glow of the crystals above reflected across the shining designs, filling the room with warmth. The sound of water was soft here, dripping from the ceiling into clear pools that shimmered like liquid glass. Mira stepped forward first. Her eyes moved slowly across the golden walls, taking in every detail. She reached out but stopped just before her fingers touched the surface. "This is not treasure," she said calmly. "It is something more. The walls themselves carry meaning." Kai walked to one of the pools. He knelt down and dipped his hand into the water. It was warmer than the rain outside and clearer than any river he had seen. The surface rippled gently and he saw his own reflection move across the golden light. "The pools are alive with the same glow," he said. "This place breathes with the water." Lena stood at the far side of the chamber, her notebook already open. Her eyes shone with wonder as she began to sketch the patterns on the walls. Some looked like waves, some like spirals, and some like stars. She traced them carefully with her pencil, whispering to herself, "It is a story. These lines tell of what came before." Mira moved closer to one of the larger golden designs. It showed tall figures, their arms lifted high, shaping clouds with their hands. Around them, streams of water flowed into rivers and then rose again into the sky. The figures looked calm and noble, their faces full of peace. "These were the builders," Mira said. "They shaped the balance of water and sky." Kai walked slowly around the chamber, studying every detail. He noticed that when he moved, the golden patterns seemed to change slightly. New shapes appeared, hidden in the reflection of the crystal light. He paused and tilted his head. "The walls are more than carvings. They are mirrors. They hold layers we cannot see all at once." Lena hurried to his side, watching carefully. She gasped when she saw the hidden shapes emerge. "Yes, look," she whispered. "When the light moves, new images are revealed. The gold is not decoration. It is memory." The explorers grew quiet, each lost in thought. The room did not feel like a tomb of death. It felt alive, as if it had been built to preserve knowledge for those who would come after. At the center of the chamber stood a raised platform. On it lay a series of golden panels arranged in a circle. Water dripped from the ceiling into the circle, each drop sending ripples across the panels. Mira stepped onto the platform carefully. She touched one of the panels and it gave off a soft hum like the sound of rain on leaves. Kai leaned forward, listening closely. "It sings," he said. "The gold carries sound." Lena's eyes widened. She quickly flipped through her notebook. "This is the same song we heard in the rain outside. The tones are hidden here as well." Mira struck another panel, and a deeper tone echoed through the chamber. Slowly, she pressed her hand across the circle of panels, and together they created a melody, gentle and slow like the rhythm of falling water. The walls responded. The golden lines pulsed brighter, flowing like rivers of light. The pools shimmered and sent faint ripples across the room. For a moment, the entire chamber seemed to breathe in harmony with the sound. The three explorers stood in awe. They were not only in a tomb. They were inside a living memory, a place that preserved both sight and sound. Lena whispered as if speaking to herself. "The rain outside is not only water. It is music. It is language. These panels are the heart of the song," Kai added in his calm voice. "Perhaps the rain has been carrying their voice for ages. The world itself has been speaking, waiting for someone to listen." Mira stood tall at the center of the platform. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of thought. If this is the gift of endurance, then it is not gold for wealth. It is gold for wisdom. They left behind knowledge, not riches. They spent many hours in the chamber. Lena filled page after page of her notebook with drawings of the golden patterns and notes about the tones. Kai studied the pools and the way they reflected the light, searching for hidden paths. Mira moved slowly through the room, touching the walls with care as if she was listening with her hands. When they finally rested near the glowing crystals, the song of the panels still echoed in their minds. None of them felt tired, for the air seemed to give them strength. Mira spoke softly. "The tomb is not an end. It is a beginning. These chambers were built to last forever, to keep the knowledge safe until the right time." Kai nodded, his face thoughtful. "And now we must learn what choice this knowledge asks of us." Lena closed her notebook and held it close. "The rain brought us here. The tomb welcomed us. We cannot leave without understanding its purpose." The golden chambers glowed around them, silent now but alive with hidden power. The rain outside still fell as always, endless and steady. But inside the tomb, the explorers felt they had touched something greater than time. The explorers rose early inside the golden chambers. The crystals above gave off gentle light, so it was hard to tell if morning had come outside. But the endless sound of rain beyond the waterfall reminded them that the world still flowed as before. Mira stood at the center of the platform, her eyes on the golden panels that had sung the night before. She touched one with care, and again a soft tone filled the air. Kai listened closely. He placed his ear near the panel and then struck another one with his hand. A deeper sound joined the first. Slowly he began to move around the circle, pressing and striking each panel in turn. The chamber filled with gentle notes like drops falling on still water. Lena gasped and opened her notebook. "It matches," she whispered. "The song is the same as the tones in the rain. Every drop outside carries this music." She began to write quickly, marking down the order of the sounds, her hand moving fast across the page. Mira closed her eyes as the tones continued. She felt calm, as though the rain itself was speaking directly to her. She remembered the first night she had heard the faint music outside their tents. Now she understood. The rain had always been singing. The world had been waiting for someone to hear. Kai pressed the panels in a careful sequence. As the final tone faded, something stirred. Hidden panels along the chamber wall slid open, revealing alcoves filled with orbs. Each orb glowed softly, filled with liquid light that shifted and swirled as if alive. The explorers stepped closer. Lena's eyes widened as she stared at the glowing orbs. "They are like hearts," she whispered. "Each one carries the same rhythm as the song." She placed her hand gently on one orb, and it pulsed faintly beneath her touch, warm and steady. Mira looked around the chamber. Dozens of orbs were set into the walls, each glowing with soft silver or gold light. Together they filled the room with a quiet hum, a harmony that blended with the dripping water. "These must be the source," she said. "The song of rain, the gift of endurance, it all flows from here." Kai's voice was calm but full of thought. If these orbs are removed, perhaps the rain would stop. The endless waterfalls would fall silent. The idea made the chamber feel suddenly heavy. Lena shook her head quickly. "But the rain has lasted for ages. What if it protects the land? If we end it, the balance might be lost." Mira said nothing at first. She walked slowly around the chamber, her eyes on the glowing orbs. She could feel their steady rhythm in the air, like the heartbeat of the world. "Perhaps that is the test," she said finally. "The builders left us their song, but also a choice. Do we take it or do we let it remain?" The explorers sat together on the floor of the chamber. The pools reflected the golden light, and the hum of the orbs filled the silence between them. Lena hugged her notebook close. "It is not simple treasure," she said softly. "The gold in the legends is wisdom, not wealth. The orbs are the true gift." Kai nodded. His voice was steady. "But every gift carries weight. If we change the song, the world will change. We must decide with care." Mira looked at her companions, her face calm but thoughtful. "Then we must understand more before we act. We cannot take or leave anything until we know the truth of this place." They spent hours studying the chamber. Kai tested the tones, trying different sequences to see if more secrets would appear. Lena copied every line of the golden pattern, searching for hints in the designs. Mira moved quietly from orb to orb, listening with her hands and her heart, feeling the rhythm of the rain that had lasted for countless years. At one point, Kai struck a sequence of panels that created a brighter sound. The orbs responded, glowing more strongly. For a moment, the entire chamber lit like the sun, and the rain song grew louder, filling their minds with harmony. Then the light faded, and the orbs returned to their steady rhythm. Lena whispered, her voice trembling with awe. "It is alive!" The tomb itself is alive. That night they rested near the glowing orbs. None of them could sleep deeply. The hum of the rain song filled their dreams, wrapping them in light and sound. They dreamed of rivers flowing across lands, of clouds rising into skies, of beings with calm faces shaping the balance of water. When Mira woke, she looked at her friends. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we must decide. The tomb does not hide its secret from us anymore. It asks us to choose what must be done." The rain outside still fell, steady and endless, but inside the tomb the explorers now understood its meaning. The song of rain was not only sound. It was a gift, a heartbeat, a choice waiting for those who dared to listen. The golden chambers were quiet as the explorers gathered near the glowing orbs. The hum of the rain song filled the air, steady and calm. Outside, the endless rain continued to fall, crashing against the cliffs and rolling into rivers below. Inside the tomb, the world felt still, suspended in light and sound. Mira looked at Kai and Lena. Her eyes were thoughtful. "We have learned much," she said softly. "We understand the song, the golden walls, and the orbs. Now we must decide what to do." Kai's hands rested on his knees. His voice was calm but firm. "If we take the orbs, the rain may stop. The land outside may change. It could become fertile, but it could also lose balance. We cannot know for certain." Lena held her notebook close. She had copied the golden patterns, sketched the symbols, and written down the tones of the rain song. "The builders left this for us," she said. "Perhaps they wanted someone to learn from it, not to take it. Maybe the rain must continue, for the world itself depends on it." Mira nodded slowly. She walked among the glowing orbs, touching each one lightly. Their warmth pulsed in her hands, steady and strong. "The choice is not simple," she said. "We could end the endless rain, but we might lose more than we gain. Or we could leave it and preserve the balance they built long ago." Kai studied the orbs. He placed his hand on one, feeling its heartbeat in his palm. "They are alive in a way we cannot fully understand," he said. "To remove them would be to stop the song, and that song carries life beyond this chamber." Lena stepped closer to the central platform. "The golden walls, the panels, the pools, the orbs, they are all connected. The tomb was built as a living memory. If we disturb it, we could lose the knowledge it preserves." Mira took a deep breath. She closed her eyes and listened. The hum of the orbs blended with the soft dripping of water. The rhythm matched the rain outside, steady and endless. She realized that the tomb had waited for this moment. It was offering them wisdom, asking them to choose with care. Kai spoke again. "Perhaps the true test is not to take, but to understand. The builders wanted visitors who could respect the balance. If we disturb it for our own gain, we fail their test." Lena smiled softly. "We have already learned much. The golden patterns, the tones, the song of rain. We carry it with us in our minds and hearts. That may be enough." Mira opened her eyes. Her face was calm, but inside she felt the weight of responsibility. "Then we leave the orbs," she said finally. "We do not take them, but we copy what we can. We learn, we record, and we preserve the knowledge without destroying the balance." Kai nodded. "It is the right choice. The rain will continue as it has for ages, and the world will remain alive. We will carry the wisdom with us." Lena looked around the chamber, her hand brushing the golden walls. "We will remember everything. The tomb has given us a gift, not wealth, but understanding. That is more valuable than gold." The explorers moved slowly through the chamber, touching the panels, tracing the golden lines and listening to the tones. They recorded every detail in their notebooks, marking the rhythms of the rain song, sketching the shapes of the figures, and noting the reflections in the pools. Outside, the waterfall continued to fall, vast and powerful. Inside, the tomb seemed to glow brighter, as if it approved of their decision. The orbs pulsed with steady light, and the golden walls reflected the crystal glow in rivers of warmth. Mira stepped to the center of the platform and pressed her hand lightly on one orb. The hum grew soft and gentle, blending with the dripping water and the sound of the distant waterfall. She felt the rhythm of the rain itself, steady and patient, and she understood that the tomb had given them more than knowledge. It had given them a lesson in patience, respect, and endurance. Kai and Lena joined her. Together they stood in silence, listening to the hum, feeling the warmth and watching the golden patterns shimmer in the crystal light. They understood that they were part of something greater than themselves, something older and wiser than humanity alone. Finally, Mira spoke. "We have chosen to respect the tomb. We have learned its song and copied its patterns. That is our gift back to the world. The rain will continue, and we will carry this knowledge to share and preserve." The explorers left the golden chambers slowly, their steps careful on the wet stone. The waterfall roared as before, hiding the entrance, yet inside their minds the song of the rain echoed clearly. They knew they had made the right choice, and the tomb seemed alive with approval. Outside, the endless rain fell on the cliffs and rivers, steady and gentle in its own way. The explorers looked at it with new understanding. It was not only water, not only weather, it was life, memory, and wisdom, waiting for those who could listen. Together they walked back toward their camp, carrying notebooks filled with golden patterns and the rain song. They knew the journey home would be long, but they also knew the tomb had given them something that could never be taken away. the gift of endurance, and the knowledge of a world shaped by patience and care. The explorers climbed down the cliffs with care. The waterfall thundered beside them, sending mist and spray into the air. Rain fell steady as always, endless and silver. But the explorers did not feel afraid. Their hearts were full of wonder, and their minds carried the knowledge of the tomb. Mira led the way, her hands steady on the ropes. Behind her, Kai checked each knot and secured every line. Lena followed last, her notebook clutched close, filled with sketches, notes, and the rhythms of the rain song. The journey had been difficult, but it had changed them. They were no longer simply visitors on this strange world. They were witnesses to something greater than themselves. At the base of the cliff they paused. The waterfall stretched above them, endless and bright. Mira looked up and breathed slowly. "It is as if the rain itself is alive," she said softly. "It carries the memory of the tomb. It will never stop, and it will always wait for those who listen." Kai nodded. "We have learned the song, the patterns, the wisdom hidden in the walls and the orbs. We carry it with us. The tomb has given us a gift," Lena smiled. "Not gold to take away, but knowledge to keep. That is more than the stories promised." The tomb did not hide treasure for hands to hold. It hid wisdom for hearts to understand. They walked across the wet plains toward their camp. The rain continued without change, but it felt gentle, almost welcoming, as if it knew the explorers had respected its purpose. Mira felt warmth in her chest. The tomb had taught them patience, endurance, and respect. These were the true gifts hidden beneath the waterfalls. At the camp, they gathered their remaining supplies. The glowing stones lit their tents as the explorers packed carefully. They looked back at the waterfall one last time. The golden chambers, the pools, the glowing orbs, all remained hidden behind the veil of water. The tomb would wait for others who could listen, but for now it had shared its secret with them. Lena opened her notebook and traced the rain song with her fingers. "The patterns, the tones, everything is here," she said softly. "We can bring this knowledge back to humanity. We do not need to take the orbs or the gold. The song itself is the treasure." Kai smiled. The builders wanted someone who could understand, not someone who would claim. "We have passed their test. We have learned endurance, and we have chosen wisely." Mira stood beside them and looked up at the endless rain. She remembered their first steps on this world, how the rain had fallen without pause, how the waterfalls had hidden the tomb from view. Now she understood. The rain was alive, patient, and powerful, and it had guided them to knowledge that no ordinary treasure could give. The explorers boarded their small craft, ready to leave the distant world behind. As they rose above the cliffs, the waterfall stretched below them like a silver river in the sky. The tomb remained hidden, its secrets safe, but its song traveled with them in memory. The rain continued to fall steady and endless, singing the same melody that had led them to the golden chambers. Inside the craft, Mira looked at Kai and Lena. "We will share what we have learned. The song of the rain, the wisdom of the tomb, and the golden patterns. Humanity will know the gift of endurance," Lena nodded. "We will tell the story not of treasure, but of respect. Not of taking, but of listening. That is what the tomb truly gave us." Kai added, "The rain will continue, the waterfalls will keep their secrets, and the tomb will wait. But we have carried its song with us, and that is more than enough." As the craft moved toward the stars, the explorers looked back one last time. The endless rain fell across the cliffs and valleys, beautiful and patient. The golden chambers remained hidden, glowing softly behind the veil of waterfalls. The orbs pulsed faintly, keeping the balance of the world. The song of the rain continued, unchanged and eternal, a gift for those who knew how to hear it. Mira closed her eyes and felt the rhythm of the rain in her chest. It was steady and calm, like a heartbeat that had lasted for centuries. She knew that humanity had been given a lesson as old as the water itself. Endurance, patience, and respect were the greatest treasures. The explorers would return to their homeworld with knowledge, wisdom, and a story that would inspire many. They had seen the golden chambers, the glowing orbs, and the living music of the tomb. They had chosen to leave it intact, to respect the balance and carry the song in their hearts. And somewhere beneath the endless waterfalls, the tomb waited. The rain continued to fall, gentle yet powerful, singing the song of life. Its message was clear. True treasure is not what is taken, but what is understood, preserved, and shared. The craft soared higher, leaving the endless rain behind. The explorers looked forward, but the memory of the tomb, the golden chambers and the song of the rain would remain with them forever. The gift of endurance had been given, and they had received it with hearts ready to share.